At the end of the 300s, a Portuguese ship was built around 100, which became famous all over the world. But in comparison, China's Ming Dynasty created something even more astonishing: the legendary treasure ships, gigantic sea monsters floating across the oceans. These vessels were like floating cities, 4 decks armed with 100 cannons, carrying 1,000 soldiers and horses. And this was not just one ship. The Ming Empire had fleets of hundreds of such colossal vessels. With them, they controlled neighboring kingdoms and crushed enemies mercilessly. The man behind this floating empire was himself a giant, standing 7 feet tall. As a child, he was kidnapped, stripped of his manhood, and turned into a eunuch. Yet, he rose to become one of history's greatest admirals, conquering the seas. How did he do it? Were these massive ships truly real, or just stories passed down through legends? Yes, history itself records these colossal ships. Listening to their tale feels like entering a world of fantasy. The story begins in the late 1300s, in the southwestern province of Yunnan, where a 10-year-old boy lived. His father, a minor official under the Mongol rulers, was killed when the Ming overthrew the Mongols. In the chaos, the boy was captured. Taken before the Ming general, he was asked about the Mongol emperor. Afraid, he stayed silent, but was seized and dragged away, his fate sealed. Before reaching the imperial court, a cruel fate struck him. He was castrated and made into a eunuch. In exchange, however, he entered a path to power. Eunuchs in the Ming court had no families, no heirs, and therefore no distractions. The emperor trusted them as loyal servants. Thus began the rise of this boy, renamed Ma He. As he grew, his body changed unnaturally. Lacking testosterone, his frame stretched tall until he reached nearly 7 feet, towering above ordinary Chinese men of just 5'8". His intimidating presence caught the eye of Prince Judi, who made Ma He his trusted bodyguard. Battle after battle, Ma He proved his courage, rising from soldier to officer and then commander. When Prince Judi usurped the throne in a bloody civil war, he became Emperor Yongle. He knew his empire needed more than armies to secure its power. It needed something to shock the world. So he ordered the construction of the greatest naval fleet in history and placed its command in the hands of his most trusted servant, Ma He. The emperor gave him a new name, Zheng He. Under Zheng He, a fleet of 27,000 sailors, soldiers, translators, doctors, astrologers, and clerks was assembled. Several types of ships were built: warships, supply ships, horse carriers, all together forming a moving empire. But the jewel of the fleet was the treasure ship, nearly 400 feet long, 180 feet wide, with 4 decks and 9 masts. They carried bronze cannons, storerooms filled with food, quarters for sailors, and grand halls stacked with silk, porcelain, and gold. These were not mere war machines. They were floating symbols of China's glory. When foreign rulers saw them, they were awestruck, terrified into submission. In 1405, Zheng He began his first voyage. His fleet sailed across the Indian Ocean, stopping in Malaysia, Indonesia, and Sri Lanka, where they crushed pirates and captured the local king, bringing him before the emperor. They reached the Arabian coasts and even Kenya and Africa. Everywhere, Zheng He brought back wonders: giraffes from Africa, spices from India, Arabian horses, while showcasing the wealth and might of the Ming Dynasty. But like every empire, opposition grew. Confucian scholars in court called these expeditions a waste of resources. In 1421, lightning struck the Forbidden City's grand temple. The scholars declared it a divine curse, proof that the voyages must stop. Under pressure, the emperor briefly halted shipbuilding. Before his death, however, he sent Zheng He on one final voyage. After Emperor Yonglei's death, the new rulers banned ocean expeditions altogether. The great fleet was dismantled. Timber from the mighty ships was reused, and the memory of the world's largest navy was erased almost overnight, as if it had never existed. To this day, historians debate: were these ships truly as massive as described? Some argue Chinese wood and technology could never sustain vessels that large. Others point to the discovery of gigantic rudder posts at the Nanjing shipyard, proving their enormous scale. Whatever the truth, Zheng Hei's name is immortal. From a kidnapped child and eunuch, he rose to command the seas with the largest fleet ever known. His story remains a mystery at the edge of history. Were these truly the greatest ships ever built, or just legends that turned into myth?